Alright, so this video is going to be another pwnedlabs.io video. Pwned Labs is a really cool resource and platform for learning about the cloud. You can learn about AWS, Google, Azure, Red Team, Blue Team, and it's really good. I highly recommend it. There is free and premium labs, and today we're doing a free lab. This lab is AWS S3 Enumeration Basics. It gives us a website and it gives us a scenario. It's your first day on the red team and you've been tasked with examining a website that was found in a phished employee's bookmarks. Okay, check it out, see where it leads. In scope is the company's infrastructure, including cloud services. The learning outcomes will be a little familiarity with the AWS CLI, basic S3 enumeration, and an awareness of how this scenario can be prevented. Which is usually part of the goals of Pwned Labs. At the end, they'll usually give a thorough explanation of how to avoid the attack that you just went through. So the real world context. Amazon S3, which stands for Simple Storage Service, is a very popular and the second oldest AWS service that is used to store files and backups and can even be used to serve websites. This multi-use functionality has led some to argue that this service would be more secure if it were split into separate public web hosting and private file storage services. In recent years, AWS has introduced more visual warnings when customers are making buckets world readable, but still, if this setting is available, people will set it. Misconfigurations and overly permissive settings in S3 have resulted in many data breaches over the years. So, reading between the lines, S3 is a good tool to use, but you must use it correctly for proper security posture. So let's go ahead and visit the website that they gave us. As you see, it's this dev.hugelogistics.com. There's really not a lot going on with the website. It's pretty static. There's really no redirection or other pages. Here, there's just very little information. But what we can do is go ahead and go to view page source, see if there's anything else going on in here, and we do see a website here, S3, indicating that our first clue about S3 for Amazon. And just scrolling down, we see some other things. So it looks like this website is hosted on S3. So let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick. And I'm actually viewing the page source, so I'll delete that. And so we can see this, it's displaying the style.css file. So this is what the style CSS looks like, but let's see if we can look at other things. The directory itself gives us an access denied. And let's see if we can just check out the root website, the base website here. It's also an access denied. That's okay though, because we do know that it is an S3 bucket, so we can proceed with that. A little bit more enumeration on the command line specifically. So we'll start with that. And actually I already had one pulled up, so we'll go ahead and use this command first. Remember with AWS commands, it starts with the tool, which is AWS, then it's the service, which is S3, and then the action, which is ls, which means list, just like in Linux, and then we have our URL, which is the S3 devhugelogistics.com, and then the no sign request, that just means we don't have a password or keys at the moment. So let's go ahead and try this command, and it does output that this has 4 directories here: admin, migration files, shared, and static. So what we can do is run this same command but modify it slightly and put the recursive at the end of it, like this, and that will recursively list it will not just list the directory itself, but it'll keep going recursively through the directory. And for this we do get an error. That's because some of these are actually unavailable to us right now in our current context. We don't have any privileges or anything right now, so we're just trying it with no privileges or no credentials. So let's go ahead and do the same command, but on each of these directories to see which ones that we're able to access and not. So first admin, so same command, but with the admin directory here, and we're getting an error, so we can't access admin. And this is just like a learning lesson in enumeration. Same command again, but with the migration files directory. Unable to access a migration file, so we're going to need higher privileges or some kind of credentials to be able to access that. All right, same command again, but with the static directory here this time, static directory. And we do get some stuff here, logo, script, and style, which we can look at. We already saw the style. It looks like this is just stuff to be able to display the website itself. And then lastly, same command, but with the shared directory. And we do have an HL migration project.zip. So let's just pause real quick. This first command we were doing on the base of the website, and we found these 4 directories, and now we just enumerated through each of the directories just to see what we can find in those. We listed each one of the directories. Now that we've seen this zip file, let's go ahead and grab it. So what we can do is, we were doing an ls action in these commands, and now what we're doing is the cp or copy action with the S3 and the AWS tool. So the AWS tool, S3 service, the action is copy. So we're going to be copying this zip file. The dot is to the current directory, and I'm just in my S3 directory here with the no sign request, because once again, we're not credentialed currently. And that'll take a second. I'll go ahead and ls my directory, and we do have this zip file now in the directory. So let's go ahead and unzip that. And we do have now, the original zip file, and then we have this file called migrate-secrets.ps1. And so that's really interesting. Let's go ahead and cat that. Let's see what's going on here. All right, so it's a PS1, so it's a PowerShell script here. And would you look at that? We do get an access key here and a secret key. Okay, the US region, the region is US East 1. So this is a script, and it has hard-coded credentials in here. So that is our first loot that we found. And what we can do to confirm it is indeed US East, and just to check some other information, go ahead and do the curl-i command on this site, s3.amazonaws.com dev huge logistics. And yeah, we do see that it is US East. All right, so now what we can do is we're going to do the AWS command line, but we'll do configure. So we're going to configure credentials now. So before we were just running commands and we were able to access stuff publicly that we shouldn't have because we weren't credentialed, and now we're able to use the credentials that we found to gain a little bit more. So now let's go ahead and find the access key. And go ahead and pop that in. And now it's asking the secret key. That's easy right here. Okay. And the region, I'll go ahead and just copy it so I don't do a typo. And then we can go through defaults for the rest. Okay, so now we're configured with these credentials here. So when you are when you do the AWS configure, then you are in what is, I guess you could call an execution context. We'll be executing things in the context of this user that has these keys. And so let's figure out who that user is. The way you can do that with AWS is AWS STS get caller identity, just like the who am I command if you're going to do it in Linux or Windows. AWS STS get caller identity. We do see that this is our user ID, our account, and our user PAM test. So we're conducting under PAM test this execution context because we're executing things under the PAM test user. All right, so once we've done that, what we can do, since we have credentials now, we can try one of the previous commands we did. Remember when we tried to do a S3 ls command on this website, specifically the admin directory, we weren't able to access that. And now we can try that, but we won't do no sign request. We were doing no sign request on all the requests before. Now we don't actually have to do that because we do have credentials. So let's try this. And wow, okay, so we do have the flag file, we have a test file, and then we have this website transactions export.csv. So we've got a lot of valuable loot in here. However, we can't actually copy that right now. So let's just try that. If we wanted to copy, say, the website transactions CSV and put it to the screen, it just says download failed, forbidden. So what's interesting is the credentials we gained. Now we're executing things as PAM test. We're able to list this directory, see what's in the directory, but we can't actually grab what's in the directory, okay? So now we can look for other things real quick. Remember there was the other directory, which was migration files. So we're doing the same command here now. AWS S3 ls, and now we're doing with the migration files. Once again, we don't actually need no sign request because we are executing as the PAM test user. All right, very interesting. So we do see this migrate secrets PS1 file again. We see AWS Secrets Manager migration, all that's good. Let's see what this text export XML file is, because that sounds interesting. So once again, a similar command to before, but with this specific file, AWS S3 CP, which is copy. So we're copying this file and putting it into the current directory. And I kind of like to think of this command, AWS S3 CP copy, kind of like a wget command. All right, so now we do have that. Let's just double check it's in our directory, and it is. So let's go ahead and cat that. Wow, we have run into a lot of loot here. Oracle database credentials, HP server credentials, AWS production credentials, backup portal, admin account. So wow, we found a lot of loot. Specifically what we're really looking at here is the AWS production credentials. With the AWS IT admin, we have an account ID, we have an access key ID, we have a secret access key. So you know what we can do? We can do exactly what we did before. We can, with these new credentials that we just found, do another AWS configure. So remember, with AWS configure, we're just configuring credentials based on what we found, based on the credentials you have or what you find. Access key ID, then secret access key. Okay, and default region name, you can see here it already gives us US East 1. So we'll go ahead and enter through that. Now to confirm who we are once again, we're not going to do who am I. We are going to do the AWS version of that, which is AWS STS get caller identity. Who are we now? We are indeed the IT admin, and that's because we found the IT admin credentials here. So just by using enumeration skills, we were able to gain IT admin access. At first, we could only list some of the files. Then when we found some credentials in one of the files we were able to access, we were able to gain credentials and privileges beyond what we should. Now with this, we can pretty much access anything. So let me try the command I tried earlier. We're going to AWS S3, we're going to copy this file, and then doing the dash will just output it to the screen. So we have pwned all these accounts. We have pwned this S3 bucket and this AWS account. We are the IT admin, and we can essentially do whatever we want here. And then if you wanted to get the flag, it would just be flag here, admin/flag. I think it's flag.text, but that's how you would get the flag. It's flag.text, so yeah, you would do flag.text. And this is how you would find the flag once you have those credentials. You know, once again, just using the S3 copy command. I won't actually execute this, but if you follow the steps, you should be able to execute that, get the MD5 hash, and submit it at the top here of this section. And so that's the basic walkthrough of this lab, but wanted to show at the bottom here, this is kind of the walkthrough that it gives, and I just showed everyone that. Here's the defense of this technique. The main issue that caused this data breach was that the S3 bucket was used for different purposes, right? So like it said at the beginning, this should really be kind of compartmentalized. S3 buckets should have a specific purpose, and it goes on to say if a bucket is to be used to host static websites or even directly host a static website itself, it can do this. However, the bucket should then not be used for storage of sensitive files. A separate bucket related to the PAM migration project should have been used instead. So a separate bucket related to that should have been used. The shared directory was world readable, which might have been used to share the migration script with an external contractor or consultant. Even sharing sensitive files opens the internet for a couple of minutes and can be a really high risk, as scripts and bots can automatically detect changes and download the files. So if you ever deploy a honeypot or something like that, you notice that it gets attacked immediately. There is automation scripts running all the time to see vulnerabilities, and so you just got to be careful of that, because anytime something is posted, it's not like a manual process. It gets picked up pretty quickly. It would be better to share files in a more secure manner and encrypt the zip file with a strong random password, right? So we got the zip file and we're able to just unzip it. So using, if you're going to zip something, make sure you store the zip file in a secure location first, and then also encrypt it. Another issue was that the AWS credentials were hard-coded directly into the script, allowing anyone on the internet to gain a foothold into the cloud environment. So not only was it stored insecurely and the zip file was not encrypted, but it had hard-coded credentials. Worse still, an XML export from a secure PAM system was also stored in the bucket and accessible by the first compromised IAM account. The secrets export contained very high privileged credentials for the huge logistics on-premise and cloud infrastructure. It also contained credentials for a second compromised account that had more permissions than the first account, allowing access to the unencrypted customer data, exposing their confidential information, potentially leading to financial loss and identity theft. So this kind of just highlighted what we were able to do. At first, we were able to just see a couple things. With what we can see and what we could grab, we found credentials. Then we were able to see and grab a couple more things. When we could do that, then we were able to get even higher credentials as the IT admin.